This is my last day at Annecy today. I have been here for about a week, but I did not become an Annecy expert. So all of you folks who know the paragliding area might know it better than me, but I hope I still can give some insights for those people who are totally not familiar with the area yet. Let us have a look at the paragliding area. We start in Planfait, which has a takeoff to the west, and two landings, Perroix and LL13, in a small town called Talloires. This terrain is suitable especially for hang soaring. The Planfait launching area has an easy takeoff, which attracts a lot of schools to practice here. Coming to this place was quite easy from the landing. Every half an hour there's a bus free of charge. The takeoff has two preparation areas and 3 people can do the takeoff the same time. The place is a little bit smaller than the Col de Forclaz, but there are much fewer pilots here. Shortly after the takeoff, the pilot has already a great view to the Annecy lake. At the bottom right, there's already the landing visible, but in front you see the ridge, and I started a little bit too early today, but the days before, every day soaring was possible from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon till the evening. If we look at this official map with the wind situation, we can see that during the day the wind normally blows in from the north and streams against the Planfait ridge, creating good soaring conditions if strong enough. A final look to the ridge and the takeoff on the top left before we come to the landing. There are officially 2 landing areas in Perroix, which is a part of Talloires, the Thoron and Perroix itself. If we remember the wind map, where the wind is indicated from the north, then the official landing here in Perroix is normally done from the south to the north. The Perroix landing area is pretty huge. It is located directly underneath the takeoff area and in the morning often used by the local paragliding schools. Here we can see the area from the air directly in front of me. Official landing instructions from the local paragliding schools tell us that we should not fly over the houses and, depending on the wind, either come in from the north or the south directly into the middle of the landing field, and avoid landing somewhere in the neighborhood except of Le Thoron, the emergency landing. On my final turn before landing, we can see Le Thoron in front of us, while at this moment Perroix is at the right hand side. The wind situation was not totally clear this morning, so I decided to come in from the north to the south. Then the windsock pointed to the south, and I had a quite hard landing here in Perroix. Here a final view at the Planfait paragliding area. On the top right you find the takeoff, and on the bottom left the landing. Now let us continue with the main paragliding area, the Col de Forclaz or Monmin takeoff, which is also pointing to the west. the landing in Doussard, and the Col de decollage. From Planfait to the Col de Forclaz, it is a distance in the air of about 4.5 kilometers. The Col de Forclaz has an altitude of more or less 1300 meters, and there's a height difference of about 800 meters to the landing in Doussard. Let's get some impressions of this takeoff. This is the bottom flag of the main Col de Forclaz paraglider takeoff. To the left hand side we can see the delta takeoff. At the paraglider takeoff there is a person who is assisting the people while starting, and you find all sorts of international pilots here with all sorts of different skills. It can be really crowded at times, but it can also be really empty if all the tandems are away. The takeoff itself is not very steep and quite easy to handle. From the top we can see that there are 5 different rows where the pilots are able to start. Behind that there's the preparation zone, and above and to the right the visitors' places. Here we can see the takeoff to the left, and let's turn around, and now we can see the takeoff in front of us. During the time I was here, the wind never came directly from the front. Here it even comes from the back. But most of the time it spilled over from the north. Also a little bit tricky is the number of pilots, and especially the tandems who are always in a hurry. So here I do a reverse launch, and now I cannot get out because of the tandem on the left. I have to wait to let him out first. And directly in front of the takeoff it can happen that there are already very strong thermals. After the takeoff most of the pilots turn to the right, and here we can find 3 different ridges where good thermals can be found for gaining height. And directly in front of us we can see the Planfait paragliding area. If we look at the wind map one more time, we can see the flight path along the ridges will lead to a mountain called Col de Forclaz directly above Planfait, and from there you can cross the lake and use the so-called staircases mountain to gain height again and get back to the landing in Doussard. Here we can see the staircases mountain on the other side of a lake. It starts at the bottom of the lake and goes up like an elevator, and the chances are good that the wind blows you up all the way and brings you to the landing in Doussard. Here I am approaching the Col de takeoff. This might be a good choice if it's too crowded at the Col de Forclaz and if the wind is directly from the front of the lake. Both takeoffs in one picture. On the right hand side the Col de Forclaz, and on the left hand side the Col de At the Doussard landing we find a lot of stalls where people can book tandem flights. There's a small snack bar, and also the taxis to get up the mountain can be found here. Shortly after the takeoff, turning to the left, the landing is already straight in front of the pilot. Doussard landing is about 4 kilometers away from the takeoff in air distance. It is a huge field of more than 100 to 200 meters in size. landing in Doussard might take some time. We can see the landing on the left hand side. And most of the time when I landed here, the wind came from the north. Only one day where I started very late in the evening, at about 7:30 p.m. The wind came from the south, streaming down the mountains to the Annecy lake. Here I am now approaching the final leg, and here we can also see how huge the field actually is. But it is not uncommon that two pilots are landing the same time, as there's a lot of traffic in the area. While the left side of the landing field is reserved for the deltas, the paragliding pilots should use the right hand side, and even further to the right there's the area for the ground handling. And the ground handling area can be very busy from time to time. Having seen the main paragliding area now, there's only two things left: a smaller takeoff Entrevernes to the southeast and a landing next to the campsites. This landing is for the Acro trainings, and it is only open in the low season when Acro training is allowed. Entrevernes is a pretty small clearing in the woods on the opposite side of the valley. To get to this place, it's about a 20 minutes ride by car and then a 10 minutes hike from Entrevernes village to the takeoff. So this is now the Entrevernes takeoff. It's a very small strip in the landscape in the woods here, and I think the wind should come directly from the front to ensure a safe takeoff. Directly in front of the takeoff we can already see the Doussard landing towards the southeast, and if we look at a small windsock on the left side, it would be a good wind for takeoff, but I don't have my glider with me today. A view at this place from the satellite. Now we come to our final destination in this video, the landing for the Acro pilots. This landing strip is actually a small field next to the camping and bordering the lake. It is about 100 meters long and maybe 20 or 30 meters wide. With a steady breeze from the north, it should not be too difficult to do the landing here. And here I find a view how beautiful it is to soar around the ridges of the Annecy lake.